Well, thank you for staying with us. This is still the AM show. And that was our latest episode of Filth Exhibition, a Joy News series showing you how we're dealing with the sanitation situation in Ghana on the back of President Kpebu's promise to make Accra the cleanest city in the world. But at this juncture, we want to talk about the Chief Justice's vision on how to ensure effective justice delivery in Ghana. She's been talking about a lot of things, touched on digitization, money for the judiciary, but I want to just give you a highlight to bring you up to speed on what, a summary of what she's been saying. She says there is a need to increase the budget for the judiciary to allow us room to expand our infrastructure in the automation and digitalization agenda, because undoubtedly, the efficiency of core processes and administration is assured with more deliberate use of technology. She also says that to speed up the efficiency and effectiveness of our systems, so much more is needed for and from the judiciary than determination and avowed purpose. There is a need to expedite the national digitization agenda to allow for easier networking of all stakeholders. She also says there is a need to increase the budget. Well, that was the first slide that I just read to you. So there is a need to increase our budget to make learning, library, and operational resources available to all judges and staff in order to enhance the speed with which both judicial and administrative decisions are made and communicated to stakeholders. And then she says there is a need for the judiciary to make itself accountable by increasing transparency in the process and output of our judgment and decisions through real-time publication of decisions. She goes on to say there is a need to harness the attention of external stakeholders in the justice delivery relay for improving excellence in their own services in order that they do not compromise the quality of justice. I wish to, quote, this is her words, I wish to express my determination to relentlessly seek the support of the legislature in matters of the budget of the judiciary and the support of both the executive and legislature for accelerated infrastructure in technology and for innovative models of doing business with technology. So those are some of the things, the highlights from the judiciary, the Chief Justice's meeting, press briefing yesterday on what she calls her vision, leading justice. Our guest joining us for this conversation first is Dr. John Okwai-Sapong, who's a CDD fellow. Dr. Kwapong, thank you for joining us. I'm sure you were following the conversation to this point. What are your initial thoughts?
Hello, good morning. Yes, I also had a chance to read the full speech, and I think it comes at a very opportune time and also at the right time. I think one of the things that I have highlighted over the last 2 years post the release of Afrobarometer Round 9 in 2022 is the fact that if you look at how Ghanaians are beginning to feel about institutions and perceive our institutions, that it doesn't leave the institutions in a good light, particularly the judiciary. I mean, you're talking about only about 11% of Ghanaians, as of Afrobarometer around 9, saying they have a lot of trust in the judiciary. And then the perceptions of corruption in the judiciary as well. And when you're talking about a critical institution like the judiciary, the last thing that you want is for citizens to have a very low level of trust in it, and also perceive it to be corrupt, because then we are talking about an institution charged with, mediating, whether it's disputes, administering justice, resolving all manner of disagreements, differences. I mean, ensuring that other institutions are not doing things that are injurious or offensive to the law, to the constitution, etc., etc. So for me, it is coming at the right time. And I think she's also looking, therefore, at the things that would begin to reshape the judiciary and go a long way to change the way the public is feeling, about the judiciary as an institution. So I think it's in the right direction.
Right. Well, she's been, commended that this is the first of its kind for the judiciary to open themselves up for public scrutiny and all that. And I want to go back to the slides about money for the judiciary, expanding the infrastructure and all that. Do you think that this is, in a way, exposing the judiciary? I remember our conversation on the build-up to this. Professor was saying that that although this is a step in the right direction, care should be taken that you don't overexpose yourself, because it is the judiciary, it's the final place of adjudicator. Do you think that this has exposed the judiciary, asking for money, digitalization, and the key highlights that you yourself have read from the speech?
I don't think it is overexposing the judiciary. If you read the speech and if you listen to what she said, one of the things she regularly also highlighted is the fact that the judiciary can only get to where it wants to get, or at least she can realize this vision that she has for the judiciary if the public would also, partner with their efforts to do all the things that she's envisioning to do. And so the only way you can get the public, other partners to be able to say we would lend hands to support you in this effort is to let them know exactly what is going on and what it is that you intend to do. And a lot of the things that she's highlighting, I also believe, are not things that are unknown to the general public. For example, she talks about land litigation and trying to bring stakeholders around the table to talk about why there seem to be a lot of litigation around land and protracted litigation, around land issues. I always say that my mom, for example, had a 19-year-old fight. I mean, it was a 19-year litigation over, someone, encroaching in their family lands, right? And so these are things that is known, people have experienced. And so I don't think it's overexposing or exposing the judiciary too much. I think it's good that she's recognizing the state of the judiciary in a very public way, and also saying to the public we ought to do something about this if we are to strengthen this key institution and its key role that it plays in not just upholding the law, but also delivering justice.
Right. But before we even get into the actual details and talk about corruption and all that, Benjamin, what did you think?
Well, interesting developments. She talks about some things we already know, increasing the budget so that learning, library, and operational resources can be made available to judges. We know that in some instances, for example, when it comes to cybersecurity, our judges themselves have had to be trained so that when such cases come to them, they can have ample knowledge, because it doesn't just come with the phrase. So some interesting points she made as well in respect of, or in respect to the accountability of the judiciary itself. But I'm going to go through a number of other points as well as we bring in our other guests. She also made mention of the fact that she wished to express her determination to relentlessly seek the support of the legislature in matters of the budget of the judiciary and the support of both the executive and legislature for accelerated infrastructure in technology and for innovative models of doing business with technology. I found that really interesting in terms of dealing with the legislature seeking more. Then judicial administration must close the gaps through which court users are subjected to exploitation and rent-seeking behavior. Of course, that also feeds into whatever goroism may be taking place. This demands the removal of as much of the human interfacing that court work is exposed to, which feeds into any corrupt practices. Then she makes mention of court officials being expected to work with independence, impartiality, competence, and integrity. Much of these ethical values are lost in the heavy traffic of human interfacing between court officials and court users, including unknown brokers functioning around the courts. And those are the Goro boys and girls I was talking about. Then she says also the current situation where one juror can be attached to the courts for years, leaving their full-time work for long periods and earning from both institutions through the same public purse needs to be seriously deconstructed. That's a crucial point that she makes. Is it fair? Are they rotated well enough? And again, steps are being taken to revert to the opening and closure of our sizes, which ensured that jurors remained within the judiciary for only a short period. And then also, the vision for producing culture-changing reorientation programs cannot be achieved without the active partnership and support of stakeholders, including community of businesses and donors. Let me bring in, do we have Martin Kpebu with us? All right. Mr. Kwapong, Dr. Kwapong, I beg your pardon. What is your reaction to this? I'd like to start from the point of the judiciary, basically through this speech or this path that the Chief Justice is taking, making requests of the legislature. Now, you know what it means. You approve my budget, I approve the other person's budget, and it goes like that. It's more like you scratch my back, I scratch yours. But she is saying the judiciary needs a lot more to be able to perform its functions properly. Good call?
Very good call. The things that she's envisioning, the things that she wants to do would also need not just human resources, but would also need a lot of financial resources to be able to accomplish that. And so when she takes a look at the budget for the judiciary, I'm sure she's realizing we can't get to where I envision the courts and the entire judiciary service getting to if we don't get a lot more resources to help us accomplish that. Of course, Parliament controls, the purse in terms of, approving budgets for all manner of agencies and institutions. And so it's a good call to, the legislature to say, in the next round of the budget, do take a second look and see how best you can, give us a lot more resources to be able to do that. Of course, Parliament also has to weigh all of the other, should I say, all of the other things that competes for limited, government resources to be able to, to do that. But at least it's a good call to Parliament to say, if we really want to improve the effectiveness and efficiency with which we deliver justice, and the courts are able to do what we really want them to do, it would take a lot more resources. And it's not every time that for some of these critical initiatives that the Chief Justice wants to undertake, that we always want to turn to, for example, development partners, international donors, to get it done. Sometimes we ought to raise some of these funds, internally to get the job done.
Right. But I want to look at the issue of digitization. I mean, she's saying that she wants to reduce human interface. And even before the presser yesterday, she mentioned that it will be started in Kumasi, where they'll have digitalized court sessions to be able to accommodate cases in all the other northern regions. And of course, it's not, the advantages cannot be overemphasized: accessibility, cost saving. But there's also some challenges that we should be looking at, like data security, like the gap in, the gap in literacy when it comes to technology. Are we ready and able to handle this effectively if it starts? Digitizing the judiciary, yeah.
You're correct. There are those challenges that have to be dealt with, and addressed. You're talking about, the digital divide, access to the internet, cost of data. But it's one of the things that she said that really, struck me was how even sometimes a simple search I'm saying simple because from what she's envisioning, it should be easy to, to track a case, to get information on a case, to find the judicial decision on a case, etc., etc. But the picture she paints is, for example, if you want a decision on a particular court case that was issued maybe even just a decade ago, plowing through papers and boxes just to get to it, right? That's just one example of the many examples that one can think of, in terms of how you can speed up access to justice delivery, if you have, a solid, e-justice system.
Yeah.
So yes, it won't happen overnight. It would encounter certain challenges, but again, for me, she's thinking the right things and envisioning the right things, and hopefully, she can realize that vision so that the court can improve in the way it conducts business. It's just amazing, even listening to her talk about the need for paralegal training for the judicial service, things that I never even thought about, so yeah.
Now, she goes on to talk about a crucial subject. Some people have wondered about how accountable the judiciary is. Some have felt they are in that ivory tower where they basically do not have to explain anything. Of course, there's a difference between the reasoning of a court and all of that and their decisions versus the real workings of the judiciary. Now, she talks about accountability, making the judiciary more accountable through transparency. And some are asking, just how transparent can they be? Just how far can they go? Because even in these interactions that she started giving, there will obviously be limits. What are your expectations in that regard?
One of the things I've always wondered about is the waiting period between when court decisions are issued and when the full written opinion is also issued, right? So when a court makes a pronouncement, particularly on some very major issues or constitutional cases, right? And trying to get all of the reasonings and how the court arrived at why it ruled in a particular way. Sometimes it takes months to get that, that written opinion, for those who are well versed in, in the law, or even for the media to share, to probe, to ask questions, so that we can get a full picture and a full understanding. In that waiting period, you create a gap in which you allow folks to then fill in those gaps, right? Whenever there's an information gap, you create an opportunity for individuals to fill in that space with their own, so either conjecture, their own reasons, etc., etc. Right? So I believe that, for example, one of the things that you can do to enhance transparency is to ensure that the moment a court is making a pronouncement, the written opinion also becomes, available. Yes, I know that sometimes it's been said that it takes them quite some time to actually fully write out that written opinion. If that's the case, finish writing that full opinion or opinions and then make that public, pronouncements. And even sometimes little things like, how are cases even scheduled, for hearing, right? If you can have, if you can even make some of those things public. So the judges themselves don't have to speak to that, but there are administrative persons who run the judicial service, right? Explanations here and there are things that can, help, because there's a lot of, why does the court do this? It doesn't seem like the court, is treating people fair. All of those little things, the judges themselves or the justices themselves don't necessarily have to speak to it. But at least you have others who play administrative roles in the judicial service that can, help speak to these things in such a way that you shine a much greater light of transparency, on the courts, and slowly rebuild that lost trust and confidence that citizens are expressing, in the courts.
Right, Doc. And on that point of transparency, let me bring in Martin Kpebu, who is also known to be an anti-graft crusader. When it comes to corruption, when it comes to, at a point, the tainted image of the judiciary, because there's so much perception, and of course, we've had the number 12 Anas expose. There's a lot in there. The Chief Justice says she wants to bring to bear accountability through transparency. Some of those avenues for people who operate in that space to do things they are not supposed to, she wants to put a block on those. What is your reaction, Mr. Kpebu?
Yeah, so it's a couple. It's the right thing for the Chief Justice to do, right? Otherwise, the image of the judiciary will keep sinking. And once that happens, it means that the court will no longer be seen as the last bastion of our democracy, the place where disputes can be resolved, right? Yeah, so I think the right thing to do, you know, the first thing she has to do in that regard is that, you see, we should look at the way court processes are served, the documents that are taken to court. The people who serve this, they are so few that, so I'm talking about the bailiffs, the bailiff system. They are so few that when you take your process to court, you file it. Master, if you don't pay money, hardly will it go. Hardly. So then let's go over this. So let's give a practical example. Mr. Kpebu sues, let's say, Dr. Osai Papon for $1 million. So, Mr. Kpebu, what we're saying is that once your case has been filed, your lawyer has filed a case in court. For us to go look for Dr. Osai Papon, we all know that if you go to, I think generally CDD, you'll find him. And CDD is not a place difficult to find. They'll tell you that you have to come and direct service. So long story short, Master, you will pay money. It's just like when police tells you that when you go and lodge a complaint at the police and you leave somebody arrested, you end up have to pay the fuel, etc., pay money. So that's the first thing. It's the easiest for the Chief Justice to deal with. We need to open up the bailiff system, employ so many, what do you call it, graduates, whether SHS or university graduates. That particular system is one that I always think that, look, this has the potential to recruit at least 1,000 graduates, yeah, across the length and breadth of Ghana. So what I'm telling you is that we pay that bribe. Look, you have no option. You don't pay and see. Then we will not find Dr. Kwapon. We will not find him. The authority will lie down there and rot. And some even have the effrontery to charge you. You see, the smart ones know that you yourself know you have to give them something, right? But those who are not so smart, they even go to the extent of charging litigants. They will charge you 500, 1,000, etc. It's a huge problem. As if that's not enough, when these things are done, because they are so few, there's so much workload on them that even after you've paid, etc., when the person is going to serve the process, you need to follow up with the bailiff so that he will write his report. It's a one-pager or half page. Okay, so he writes half of the page, then the registrar signs. You need to chase him for him to write that report so that the registrar to certify that yes, he went to CDD to serve Dr. Osei Kwapon. What I'm saying, the problem with that thing is that so if you don't do the follow-up well, you go to court, and without that report, what we call proof of service, look, the court can't do business. So it's a huge problem. So everything the Chief Justice brought in there, when I didn't see this particular problem, I was like, Chief Justice, maybe she could have called a few people around, or even if not called directly, maybe sent a questionnaire around and said, what are your problems? Because that's the first place, it's the easiest. I don't see how you want to tackle corruption without first mentioning that thing, because it's the easiest to knock out. So please, let now we are discussing it, hopefully. I think she has lieutenants who may be monitoring the airwaves to see the reactions. So it's good she wants to help resolve some of the problems, but that's the easiest, and it's a huge problem, my brother. Trust me, I can go on and on and on the full day about this particular problem. Because you see, Sakako, let's say you live in Kasua, you wake up 4 a.m., get to court 9 o'clock, and they call the case, cancel. There's no proof of service. So that's to say, when they went to serve Dr. Kwapon, the document that has to be written to show that indeed the bailiff went there, it's not on the docket. Meanwhile, but then it's even paid manual, but still, that document is not there. So they can't be business, because in law, because of the principle that the court must listen to both sides, if you don't see evidence that Dr. Kwapong has been served, the court cannot go on. You see, so we lose a lot. So CJ talk on that's where we should start from. We don't solve the problem of the corruption in the bailiff system. I don't think we can build on anything. There's this popular saying in law that you can't put something on nothing. The bailiff system, that's at the bottom. If we don't solve from that place, I don't know how we can go up. It will be a problem.
I want to continue on your trail of thoughts, and let me read what she said. She says, I deeply crave, along with all our well-wishers, I'm sure, to change the tags of corruption, ineptitude, and insufficiency around the judiciary and judicial service of Ghana. In order to shake off these tags, training needs to be supplemented with consistent culture-changing strategies to deepen ethical modes of work in the courts. Judicial administration must close gaps through which court users are subjected to exploitation and rent-seeking behavior. Do you think that this issue of corruption and the problem that you've just diagnosed will be fixed by improving the knowledge of law among citizens?
No, that's why I said no. I don't see it. I don't see it at all. What I've described, I don't see how is the knowledge base she's going to increase that will stop that problem. That problem is a demand and supply problem. So to solve it, you have to look to economics, not ethics and law, the way she's articulated it. No, it's demand and supply. So as I stated, those officers are so few. Listen, you can't, you try it. That you think, you know, you are the only one who is wrong to pay money. Okay, then your processes will lie there and rot. Yeah. So it's the easiest. It's the easiest, and I'm sure you ask 10 out of 10 lawyers, I won't be surprised you won't get less than 8 saying that yes, it's a huge problem. You try it. Because, and you see, that is how the system works. When we say 7 the process, let's use the ordinary word, bailiff, or call him messengers. Maybe people will forget. So the messengers in the court system, they have to carry the documents to go and give lawyers, to go and serve litigants. That's where it starts. Openly. You go and try that, you won't pay money. You will see whether your documents will be taken to the other lawyer or not. There are a few exceptions. Those ones are when, let's say, the law firms are very close to the court. Yeah, so those of us who are near, there are some of the processes. But it's a huge problem. It's huge. I don't even know how to describe it. So when I read the Chief Justice's speech and she didn't address this matter, I was like, no, that'd be. Well, now we are giving feedback. That is good. The good thing is that she's come openly. That justice emanates from the people. So she's coming to the people to take their feedback, to inform them. So we are giving her this feedback that we should look at the bailiff system. If we don't talk about that, I don't see how we can talk about any other thing in terms of trying to improve the justice system.
Now, in terms of ensuring that people actually do get justice and disseminating the court system across the board, she also had a few thoughts to share on that. I'd like to find out from you, though, especially with the high court system and how relevant it is across the country, especially with the context of what it does, and the Court of Appeal. What are your expectations in that regard?
I lost you a bit. The number of courts.
Yes, I'm talking about disseminating the courts. Now, you know of the relevance of the High Court and talk about ensuring that, there are as many as possible across the region so that people can access justice rather than this flow of coming down south to Accra. And then the Court of Appeal as well. She touched on that as well. What is your take?
That one is a stellar. Yeah, absolutely. It's good. So let's explain a bit this way. So the major change I've seen there is with the Court of Appeal. You know, we used to have the Court of Appeal sitting in Tamale, Kpebu, of course, Accra is the main one, and Koforidua, Kumasi, and Accra. So 5 cities. Then at a point in time, because of lack of resources, they had to shut down the Kpebu, Tamale, and I think Koforidua. So we're left with Accra and Kumasi. So now with this new reform she's brought, we are going back, and then it means that there will even be more beyond these ones. So that one is a huge relief, because can you imagine somebody in Tamale has to travel all the way to Kumasi to have an appeal head? It's not good. It's not good. So, and then you look at it, when it comes to the high courts, what I'm aware of is in the OT region, the last time I knew, they didn't have a high court near, right? Yes, so I hope that will be fixed. So for the high courts in the regions, a number of regions have a number of high courts. But of course, increasing the numbers will help because of access to justice. You remember the Chief Justice herself came up with a what would I call it, a notice, or for lack of a better word, that the Adenta court should do a shift system. So there will be a morning judge, evening judge, which we popularly call the 24-hour court system. Yes, because the numbers are huge. So now that she's creating more high courts, I'm sure that will be taken care of, right? So it's good. That one, absolutely, she's right on point. We need to increase access to justice. And the same way, then it means that we need more lawyers. And of course, in the past 3 years, they've done well. The Board of Legal Education, they've done well, been graduating about 1,000 lawyers for the past 3 years, right? We hope this year it will be the same, so that the number of lawyers will increase, and then hopefully we'll get a better society. Mr. Kpebu, let me mention this. Do you see that I felt a certain sense of change when the Chief Justice brought this vision, trying to engage the general public? I saw change. It's a huge step forward, because she knew that coming to address us directly, she knew that definitely people will go through the speech and tell her what they agree with, and more importantly, what they disagree. Because as for what they agree with, it doesn't, well, it may give her a bit of support that, okay, validation. But most especially, the disagreements are the ones that I'm sure she'll be looking forward to. Because when you do something, it is good, it's beautiful. Yourself, you can see that this is beautiful. But when there are hidden ugly things in it, you are not likely to see. So I presume that she was looking forward to the criticisms or the critiques, right? Yeah, so she's done well. That engagement is good. And especially, it also gave people an opportunity to revisit the question of what happened in the Roxanne Dafia Mekpo case. How come that the notice that was served on Dafia Mekpo says that the case will be called after 14 days? And even it's not like on the 15th day, that notice that Dafia Mekpo was served, what it says is that it will be called after 14 days when we have succeeded in serving everybody. So look, there are even some cases, more than 4 months, they've not been able to serve everybody, so the case cannot move on, right? So how come that you serve Dafia Mekpo, the thing has been served, and I think Dafia Mekpo's application was served, was it on the 18th, that document, 18th or so, and then just a few days, less than the 14 days, Dami goes to write a secret letter to the Chief Justice, and that secret letter gets acted upon. I mean, for me, I'm so shocked that Dami never saw that such a sensitive case would bring confusion. And so when he wrote that letter to the Chief Justice, he should have copied Kpebu. Till date, it beggars belief. I'm like, what? Or he who the gods want to kill, they will first make mad. I'm surprised that the Attorney General never anticipated that if you write such a letter, send a copy to Kpebu, the lawyer for Dafia Mekpo, so that you discuss
but let me just interject. The bit about, I mean, I get it. It's an analogy, but him whom the gods want to kill, they first make mad. I don't like the analogy, because then...
Oh, let it stay. Listen.
No. I suggest you just retract it.
If you don't fight, the rights we enjoy today, let's remember that if you don't fight, you won't get any...
No, but you can fight for whatever right without necessarily pointing to this quote about...
No, that's
because then there's the suggestion that someone is being made, something, so that something else will happen, Mr. Kpebu.
Let it stay. Listen, if you don't fight, the system can't get better. Because it was such a howler. It's so elementary. You should know that this is a sensitive case. You write a letter to the Chief Justice and you don't copy the other person. I mean, come on. Mr. Kpebu, don't be shy. If we don't fight, the system won't get better. You think I like it this way? No, I wasn't going to be in this space. I thought I was just being trained to.
My point, Mr. Kpebu, is that you can make your point without some of these, analogies.
Listen, Mr. Kpebu, you are being shy, and I'm saying that we have to call a spade a spade. You
right.
have to call a spade a spade.
I want
That's
to.
So that it should never happen again.
Right.
Never. You see, when Sori wrote his letter, you see, when Tadio Sori wrote his letter, he served the other parties, and you see, he brought it out into the media. That is how you go about it. Because, you see, the case is so sensitive that it would have occurred to any there's a lawyer that, hey, the other side will come complaining, especially as it came on the back of the Anas case. You know, when the Kennedy Japan and Anas case, the same thing Kennedy Japan's lawyers wrote to ex-Chief Justice Eni Yebua. They didn't copy Anas and co. Eni Yebua took the decision to keep Justice Barr on the case. Long story short, then it was later that it came out. You see how that case has brought embarrassment to the judiciary.
Mr. Kpebu, we get to the point, but I want to bring back Dr. Kwapo at this point of the conversation. What I want to find out is how significant is this leading justice system on the African continent? I'm unsure how many other African countries have digitized their court system, but I know Lagos has this e-filing and the court management information system. How significant is that? Also on the back that the democracy we practice here, many have said, many African countries, say it's worthy of emulation. How significant is this leading justice on the African continent context?
I'm not very sure what is happening, on the continent in terms of other countries and some of the efforts they are making around the judiciary. But I would say that at least from what the Chief Justice is talking about within the context of Ghana, I believe it's a very significant move. As lawyer Martin Kpebu has said, there are other issues that also must be tackled as part of this leading justice initiative. But as I mentioned in the beginning, for me, the current state of the judiciary, as it is perceived by the public, is not the best. And so I'm hoping that this leading justice initiative would be able to fix some of those core issues that is fueling how the public is now beginning to perceive and feel, about a judiciary system.
The Deputy Attorney General on the phone with us too, Dinah Asonoba Dapa. She's on Zoom. Thank you for joining the conversation, madam. What are your thoughts? How do you actually feel about, a day after the launch of this leading justice delivery system? How do you feel about it?
No, I'm very elated, just like the Chief Justice. And I believe that this leading initiative, this leading project, brings real light to what Article 125 of our Constitution spells out. I believe that the tone of her message indicated that justice administration is in the hands of the good people of Ghana. And as such, it should not be the sole responsibility of the judiciary, who are only exercising this judicial power on behalf of Ghanaians, to do that alone. And so you realize that for me, the tone of the message was that we all need to come on board. First of all, I need to sell my vision to the people who have delegated this judicial power to us. I need to first of all sell our vision to you, and you need to buy into that vision. And so for me, I'm very excited the day after that. I feel that he has thrown the responsibility back at all of us, not just the judiciary, to ensure that the acronyms LEAD, which is law, ethics, assets, due process, and digitalization for achieving the justice system that we want comes to fruition. And so I'm very excited to have been part, to have witnessed this project that was launched yesterday.
How much of an impact do you think this is going to have? Some of the proposals, some of what she's brought to bear would require, logistics. She's talking about the legislature coming on board in terms of budgetary support and all of that. What do you think it will take to actually execute?
Thanks. I think it would take beyond the rhetorics, real action by the judiciary, of course, by the government to, as it were, increase the retention of the judiciary. I think if you were there, you saw how the bar president, my own brother Yabuafu, put the vice president on the spot and said that perhaps there's a time for us to ask for 100% retention for the judiciary. I think it would take a lot of commitment. If you saw the video that was shown to us, eliciting how the court system works and the challenges, you realize that each and every one of us has a role to play. And so beyond even government, beyond legislature, government approving substantial budgets to fuel the resources of the judiciary, there's also that commitment that comes from all of us, even the lawyers. And I'm happy it was announced that the Ghana Bar Association had taken the initiatives and in various regions to also support the resources of the judiciary. And so I believe that it was also a call on all of us, groupings, individuals, to also assist the judiciary in meeting, but of course, the primary responsibility on government to ensure that there's sufficient budgetary allocations for the judiciary to give real meaning to the independence, financial independence of the judiciary. So it will take beyond just statement of commitment, but actually action by respective groups, particularly the government, and also all of us who are able to support various groupings whose projects or initiatives include support for the judiciary to actually come on board.
Now, in terms of some practices that have to go, Martin Kpebu was just talking about the bailiffs and, the paucity of those numbers. The Chief Justice herself spoke about officials, some of whom do certain things that ought not to be done in the administration of justice. She has her own points on them. How feasible are they? How quickly can these be brought to bear? Because we already know some of those challenges. What is your take on that?
Thank you. I believe that, yes, there are challenges, but they are clearly solvable. First of all, for me, yesterday's launch is an indication to all of us, the stakeholders within the judicial system, that this is what we aspire our judicial system to be. And so for bailiffs and other incidental officers related to the judicial system, there is no more now excuse. Now we have an idea what the ideal system will be. And of course, thankfully, the Chief Justice has also taken the initiative. We talk about the paralegal trainings. So it is time that all of us unlearn and relearn. And so it is no excuse now to say that I do not, first of all, know what it means to be a bailiff within the ideal system that we are promoting. It is no longer the excuse to be lax, as the system, through the Chief Justice's initiatives, is giving paralegal and other training to make people fit for purpose. So it will take a lot, but of course now we are all psyched and sensitized that there is more that can be done. So for all the paralegal officers, it is now an admonition to all of us. And I believe that if those people are not working, once all the available training and resources have been made, then they have to go and other people have to come in. And so for me, I think now, previously, people could ride on ignorance and that we don't know what we expected to do, or we don't have the training capacity or resources to do what we expected to do. By this leading initiatives project, there is no more now excuse for some of these officers. And I believe that the axe will fall where it has to be. And thankfully, we all agree that those persons who are inefficient have to go to give way for a system that we all aspire for. Thank you.
Staying on the standpoint of the officials, there's also the issue of jurors, some of whom will be, at post, so to speak, for long periods of time. She says she's going to change that. What essentially will that change in the dispensation of justice?
Thank you. So related to that, I believe my boss, the Honorable Attorney General, also offered some steps that the Office of the Attorney General had taken. And it is that we have pending a criminal procedure amendment bill in Parliament, which also tackles the same issue of jurors. Now, we have, as you indicated, I learned even yesterday that some have been jurors, are professional jurors for about 13 years and so, which shouldn't be the case. And normally, so the bill in Parliament seeks to, as it were, reduce the time spent through trial by jurors, and then also ensure that where there is a death or the absence of a juror, it does not necessarily mean that the case has to start all over again. So the bill currently in Parliament takes a holistic view of particularly criminal trial by jurors. And I believe that we have to be true to ourselves. This jury system, perhaps we need to take a second look at it, whether the whole system or partially. And I believe that some of these excuses, I'm not saying some of these delays come from the trial by jury system. And so with the need to look at it holistically and solicit ideas on how we can make it effective, I believe that it will be a good chance for expediting trial within the criminal justice system. Again, like I mentioned, now all of us have been sensitized that, look, there is not going to be business as usual. If you are a juror and you realize that you are being the inhibition or the impediment to the smooth running of the justice system, now we are all watching, and hopefully there will be action that will be taken to eradicate all these impediments in the the general justice system of Ghana. Thank you.
Right. She mentioned about, she talked about transparency. Now, in the quest to achieving transparency, where do we draw the line between being transparent and overexposing the judiciary when it comes to her activities, her plan for ensuring that the judiciary is transparent with the public, citizens?
I do not see how there will be exposure of the judiciary in the exercise of the judicial function. Because clearly, except in limited cases, all judicial proceedings are supposed to be in public, except for a few, let's say, issues, divorce and matrimonial issues involving children. The standard rule is that judicial proceedings must be done in public. And so I do not see how that exposes, of course, if you're looking at other issues related to the justices and their personal functions, I can understand. But when it comes to judicial proceedings, I think the law rather calls for an openness, a transparency in all the proceedings, of course. So I don't see that how that threatens the justices in the exercise of their judicial function.
All in all, we are hoping for a justicial system that is more effective, more efficient, and delivers justice. And only yesterday, also, I was interacting with the former Auditor General, Dr. Daniel. In fact, Daniel Yaudomelevo. I don't know why I'm adding a PhD to his name. And he made mention of the fact that one of the things he finds pretty curious is sometimes how the judiciary functions in determining cases. You know, in his instance, the response of the Apex Court did not come speedily enough. It took over a year, almost about 2 years, before there was any decision on that, by which time he had lost his office and he did not want to come back. Some would say it's the ordinary Ghanaian who lost out. I know of where you sit. I'm very conscious of where you sit. But how does all of this, in the end, how is it going to make the administration of justice better? And from where you sit, what can be done to make the Chief Justice's dreams come true in that regard? That's how we'll cap off the conversation.
Thank you. I think I've reiterated the point that before yesterday, a lot of us could rely on ignorance, that we did not know what is expected of all of us, various stakeholders, lawyers, litigants, judges, administrative officers of the court. But now we know. Now we can at least envision clearly or more substantially what the ideal justice system should be. And so for now, there is no substantial level of ignorance, I should say, and we all aspire, based on the initiatives that have been spelled out by the Chief Justice, for us to follow. There have been, I must say, some unfortunate incidents in the past concerning how the judicial system runs. There have been some remarkable achievements, but of course, we always aspire to do better and improve. I believe that we should not see this, as I've reiterated, this as the initiative of just the Chief Justice. She is leading it. I am always happy when Ghanaians, all of us, are sensitized and alert to what the ideal system should be. And when we are alert on that system, we should also be able to accept the good ones and accept that certain things must change, and it must change from all of us. And so yesterday, I realized that there was one particular question that was posed to the number of panelists who were in the video, and about what are the challenges of the justice delivery system. And all of us, going round all the panels, you find that the blame was laid at every single one of stakeholders. One said it was lawyers, sharp practice, and using all the legal shenanigans to, as it were, delay cases. Another said it's about some auctioneers can misconduct themselves and end up doing things that will be undone and set aside, and that gets us back to starting the whole process again. Some went on and said it could be the judges. Sometimes lawyers are ready, judges are not ready. Now, what is the point I'm making? The point I'm making is that it is not the initiative of the Chief Justice. He was only superintending it. But it is a responsibility of all of us litigants, and also even the general public, beyond just criticism. The Chief Justice was clear that it is also willing and ready to receive recommendations and proposals from all groups, from all support groups. And so I believe that from today, we all should be elated, as the Chief Justice is, that these initiatives have been specifically spelled out for us. Now, we all, as various stakeholders, need to take them and run with it. Lawyers, the GBA should be up and doing, perhaps regulate more rigorously. The General Legal Counsel also on these sharp practices. Litigants, what are they doing to support the whole process? Can we resort to alternative dispute resolution instead of going through the strict litigation process, which then congests the courts? What about auctioneers? How are they conducting themselves? Surveyors, other experts within the court. And so I believe that I always like to push the idea that, please, this is an initiative that is only being led by the Honorable Chief Justice. Very remarkable one, commendable one. But it is an initiative that from today must be owned by each and every one of us. And in our various corners, we work towards achieving that ideal system that we aspire for. Thank you.
Although we are concluding, I do have one last question. You see, this leading justice system is anchored on a high use of technology. What are your immediate goals to ensure that you've solidified the foundation for this to take effect?
You mean the Office of the Attorney General or Diana Stabadapa?
Okay. If you know of the immediate goals, then do share with us to ensure that, this high dependency on technology to drive this leading justice system initiative.
Right. Again, I think some steps have been taken by the Chief Justice. And one thing, I wasn't surprised yesterday because I remember when I came into office as Deputy Attorney General, I remember she was in charge of the e-justice system within the judiciary. Then she wasn't a Chief Justice. And I was very excited to hear that there's been collaboration with other groups like GIZ, which we also work closely with, Gali, and other organizations to ensure the implementation of the digitalization drive of the judiciary. As the Office of the Attorney General, we have always been part of that process. In fact, as I indicated, the e-justice system included a number of stakeholders, which included me representing the Attorney General. And so for us, the support as an office is not in doubt. So the e-justice, there are few challenges that I believe we need to polish out and tidy up. And I believe that we should gradually progress to a place where technology actually becomes the rule rather than the exception. And so, as my boss, the Honorable AG, stated, we, the office, are ever ready to support. I believe Martin is on the line. The lawyers are also ready to support the whole digitalization process. Thank you.
Diana, thank you very much for making the time to interact with us this morning. Any final words, Mr. Kpebu and Dr. Osai-Kwapong? Mr. Kpebu.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Chaku. Yeah, it's good. As I said, for me, and you see, Diana reiterated it. It's good the Chief Justice has come out to engage the public. It's a huge step forward so that we can move our democracy forward. In England, they are doing the same. And after that, they've been ahead of us. They also got a lady Chief Justice later last year, was it in September, Lady Carr. Yeah, she's also been addressing the nation. Yeah, so it's not unique. For us, the conversation is good because if the judges are sheltered and they are not allowed to hear our feedback, we will not make progress. Like the way we say in Tree, near Ocha, Esreonim Senit Chia, right? Near Ocha, Esa, right?
Yes. Ocha Sanonim and a Chia.
Excellent. So it's good. Thank you. It's good that Chief Justice is engaging us. And let's give all the positive feedback and especially also the support, like Diana has mentioned. It's good.
Thank you, Mr. Kpebu. Final words, Dr. John Osai-Kwapong.
Yeah, I'll go back and reiterate what I said in the beginning, that this couldn't have come at a better time. especially when you look at a lot of the democracy governance indices and what it is showing as some of the things that is pulling us back. Real quick, if you look at the most recent democracy report from the VDEM Institute, Ghana has lost, what I call a lost decade of liberal democracy, right? For a good 10 to 13 years, we were classified as a liberal democracy. Now we are being classified, as an electoral democracy. And part of that is protection of civil liberties and equality before the law. So I'm really, really happy that the Chief Justice is leading this initiative at this time, because I think it would go a long way to restore some of the challenges, but most especially the public perceptions of, our entire judicial system that is not at this, it's not enjoying its most positive perceptions at this time. So I really hope that this initiative gets all the support that it needs and is able to achieve all the things that it's being envisioned to be able to achieve. I think it will go a long way to strengthen, as she said, the delivery of justice.
We all look forward to that. Ladies, gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. You just heard speaking Dr. John Osai-Kwapong. He's a CDD fellow. We also had Martin Kpebu, a lawyer and an anti-graft campaigner, together with Diana Asunaba Dapa. She's a deputy attorney general. Stay with us. There's a lot more still coming your way right here on the AM show. We'll be right back.